Welcome. It's way too hot to be making chili, but this one comes from the Wicked Healthy Kitchen and the Sarno brothers. They put a post up challenging everybody to make some chili. And so we're gonna bust out our awesome chili recipe. The main components are going to be the jackfruit, a butternut squash, and then we have two different beans. We have some black beans and some great northern beans, or basically any white bean that you want. And then the seasonings, we have some cumin, paprika, cayenne, chili powder, chipotle chili powder, and then a secret ingredient that we got from Gaz Oakley is dark chocolate. So we have the oven preheated to 450. We've got a big old sauce pot here ready to go, just slightly heated up and ready to rock. So we're gonna get started. The butternut is where we're gonna start first, and we're just gonna take the ends off. We're not gonna take all the skin off of this because when we roast it, the skin will actually come out really nice. And I'm gonna leave the seeds in when I roast this, just because it's much easier to take them out afterwards, I feel like. And I'm just gonna take a little bit of the skin off with a vegetable peeler, just to help it cook a little evenly. And then when we mix it all in, you won't get a large chunk of skin, but the skin is nice to have on a little bit. And then in Wicked Healthy fashion, we have the oversized parchment paper. I'm just gonna throw in a little bit of olive oil, sprinkle some salt around. We're gonna plop these face down and put it in the oven. It's gonna go for at least about 20 minutes. You want it to caramelize, char up a little bit, get nice and soft. The butternut will bring out a lot of sweetness to the dish without adding too much sugar. And then we have 2 sweet onions, and we're gonna go ahead and dice these up. One trick with your onions is store them in your fridge, so that way when you go to work with them, you don't cry. You don't have to be super cute or fine or really worry about the look of your onion. We're just gonna saute this down anyway. And we leave the little knobby end on to help you, give you something to hold on to when you're working with your onion and work up to. And so our pan is partially preheated already. And don't overdo your oil. Even though your pan is huge and you're gonna add a lot to it, you don't need a ton of oil to get this going. And then just give it a quick stir. Make sure you get everything coated nicely. And we're gonna throw in a little bit of salt. And then while that's going, we're going to prep our garlic and our peppers. Same thing with the peppers, we're just gonna dice those up also. And then with the garlic, this is gonna be a fairly large batch, so we'll go ahead and do 3. And we're shooting for about a half-hour time limit here. It's a little quick on chili, Obviously, the longer you can let chili go, the better it turns out. But I don't think I need to keep you here all day to make some chili today. And we're just gonna roughly chop these up also. And if you like garlic, you can throw in as much as you want. There's no worries there. And always try to keep your cutting area and your work area clean. The garlic's ready. Tackle the peppers. Peppers, take off your stem. Just pop that off and then turn it over and set it down, like so. And then from there you can see the veins, the white part inside that you don't want. So you can kind of cut around that from here. Like so. And then same with the red pepper. And there's no seeds to mess with. You don't have seeds all over your kitchen. You don't have to pound them out. And then same thing, we're gonna dice up the peppers here. If your knife is not very sharp, you can cut your peppers this way, but this knife is nice and sharp. And then the goal with prepping everything is to try to keep things at the same size, so that way they cook evenly, everything looks nice and uniform. Even though you're not being too exact, it still does make a little difference in the dish. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and throw the peppers in. We'll wait on the garlic because that'll burn if you throw it in too early. And then we're gonna try to get all the water and juice out of the peppers, and those will brown up with the onions real nice. And then we have just one hot chili pepper from the garden. I'm gonna slice this up real fine. And yes, we want the seeds and all. Normally I do a lot of red pepper flake when I cook, but when we have fresh chili pepper, it's nice to just use that. And we'll add that at the same time we add our garlic. And then here we have another chili pepper in adobo sauce, and these are pretty hot. So be careful working with these. Also, don't overdo them, but you can see the seeds just kind of come out. So we'll throw that in at the same time also. And that's all the prep. And so keep checking on your dish, keep giving it a good stir. When the peppers and onions and everything are getting close to going brown, that's when you'll want to add in your garlic, chili pepper, and the adobo pepper. So we still have just a little bit to go here. Well, since I have a little bit of downtime, I'd like to thank everybody for tuning in every week. Many of you have tuned in every week, and I really appreciate that. It's nice to see you. Please be sure to go to our YouTube channel and subscribe. There'll be a button below, one of these ways. You know, we're going to keep uploading stuff there. It's nice for us to be able to reach everybody. And then also it's a good way to pull up a dish anytime you want to make it, because I'm sure nobody really wants to make chili today, but it's what we're doing. And then I just keep stirring the dish throughout. If anything starts to stick at the bottom, your heat's too high, we have vegetable stock to help make sure it doesn't stick at the bottom, kind of deglaze the bottom of the pan. And it's a really good way to build in flavor. And we're gonna start adding in some of our seasoning. So we have plenty of cumin here, and we season everything to taste. If you like a lot of seasoning, you can just go buck wild and throw a bunch in there. Or if you're a little on the cautious side, you can always add to the dish throughout, but you can never take anything away. So keep that in mind when you're working with everything. And then same with the chili powders. Chili powder will amplify throughout the dish as you cook. So don't go crazy, especially when you taste it for the first time and it's not quite there yet. Just don't risk it. Just let it develop. I'm pretty sure I've made that mistake a couple times, and just be aware of that. And we're going to go ahead and add in garlic and our peppers. And also, since we're working with peppers, be very careful. Don't touch your face, don't touch your eyes. Just be wary of what you touch. And if you have to go break your task or do something else, just wash your hands, wash it all off. If you have a pair of gloves, if you can find gloves right now, that's a really good thing, but we all know we're struggling to find some protective gear at the moment. So we're just going to keep stirring it around, and especially once you add your seasoning, you'll see some of it starts to stick to the bottom, and that's all right. You do want the heat to release a lot of the flavor from the chilies and everything else like that. But you can see it starting to kind of stick to the bottom in areas, and that's what you're looking for, and that's perfectly okay. And so we're going to add in some vegetable stock here. And it pulls all of that up off the ground, or the bottom of the pan, not the ground. We're not cooking outside. And so we're going to keep going with this just a little bit longer. If anybody's tried our chili, this is the same chili that we've made last year. We definitely served it throughout lunch and winter, so chime in, let everybody know how it is. It's insanely good chili is how I would describe it. So now that that's going well, it's heating up nice, and the pot itself is back up to heat. Every time you add something, the heat does go down a little bit, so you don't want to just keep adding things to it, or else you're really going to cool off your pan, and you're going to struggle getting things to cook evenly and cook quick enough at the same time. And so the onions are cooked down, the garlic's not raw anymore, and your peppers still have just a little bit of crunch, but not too much. We're going to go ahead and add in the bean mix. And give that a good stir. And then when you're working with beans, I always say be a little extra with your salt. And then also you can use whatever beans you want. You don't have to use the two that I chose. You can use red beans, you can use canned beans, you can use chickpeas. You can really throw whatever you want into chili as long as it's seasoned with chili. And we're going to take a look at our butternut. It's coming along. And then here again, we're just making sure we get everything back up to temperature. The beans get nice and hot before we add in the next ingredient, which will be the jackfruit. And then we'll top it off with our crushed tomatoes and our vegetable stock. All right. So we added the jackfruit in. We're going to bring that up to temperature also. And the jackfruit is our jackfruit mix with the king oyster mushrooms. So it's already cooked and seasoned to the texture that we want. We're just adding it to the dish. So now that's up to temp. We're going to go ahead and add in all of our crushed tomatoes. This is one really large can. And then really just make sure this does not stick to the bottom of your pan. Don't burn your tomato sauce when you add it in right now. Just give it a second to help get it up to the temperature that you need. Try not to splash it all over your kitchen. And then we have about 7 cups of vegetable stock left. We'll just add all of that. And we're going to add one final bit of salt before we let this come to a simmer. And so the heat is fairly high. It still stayed at the same medium to high heat the whole time. We're just going to bring this up to a nice light simmer, let it bubble just a little bit, and then from there we're going to work our heat down into just a smooth simmer and let it go. Chili is obviously the best when you can let it go all day and just slowly let the flavors develop and work together. But you can also make chili in a pinch if you ever need to. So this is just how it works. I've always said chili's the better on the next day, not the first day it's made. And I'm going to go ahead and add in the rest of the cumin, because I really like cumin. Butternut's got a little bit more to go, but we just add that last bit of butternut at the end. We'll scoop it out. It adds a nice rich texture to the dish. And then as this part's heating up, make sure you don't burn it to the bottom of your pan, or else you just kind of ruined your dish and you'll want to start over again. There are some tricks though to add in a little bit of smoky flavor, which I'm sure we've all used these before, but we have some liquid smoke. And so we're just going to go ahead and add in about 2 to 3 drops. And mix that around. And now we just let it go. So we'll come back in about 2 hours and we'll give this a taste. But once it comes up to temperature, it is ready to serve.
I'll tell them, yes, regular kitchen hours next week. Sherry with it.
So here's the squash, if you want to take a look at that.
Why do you wait to remove the seed?
Because it comes out a lot easier once you cook it. If you can do it raw, there's nothing wrong with that, but it's much harder to just scrape it out. You really gotta put some elbow grease into it to get it all out. So this just makes it nice and convenient.
Good to know.
And then from here, we're gonna cut these up into nice bite-sized pieces. And this is really hot. Normally you wanna let this cool off, but if you are like us and you have some kitchen hands, you can just handle whatever you wish. And this roasted for about 30 minutes in the oven at 450. We just did a little bit of salt and olive oil onto it, and that is all. And we're just going to scoop this into the dish. And then the butternut does finish cooking within the chili. It'll soak up a bunch of the juices, and it'll turn out really nice. And if you don't have a butternut, you can use pumpkin, you can use acorn squash. Don't recommend spaghetti squash, it gets really stringy within the dish. We've used some other crazy random seasonal squashes that kind of just pop up at the farmer's market. You can always be a little courageous there. It's all up to you. And then again, always just make sure you're scraping the bottom of your dish or your pot to make sure it's not sticking at the bottom. And then we're going to throw in a good handful of cilantro. And then to polish off the dish, secret ingredient, your dark chocolate. It's not too much, but just enough to go in there. It kind of just helps creamy up the dish, adds a little bit of a bitter flavor, and it's, I don't know, it's an odd thing to add to a dish, you would think, but it really does kind of create the full texture of chili in the end. So thanks to Gaz for that one. And then we're gonna let this sit for just a minute. I'll grab a bowl. then we have some creme fraiche to dull the heat a little bit. And then again, just top it with a little bit of extra cilantro on top. And if you have any chips, tortilla chips, bread, Fritos, anything like that, you can throw that alongside. But voila! There is a fully plant-based chili with butternut squash, black beans, white beans, jackfruit, onions, peppers, garlic, all the good stuff. You'll be seeing this a lot from us once it cools off. It's one of the more popular dishes on the meal prep and through lunch. So yeah, let's play around with some more chili, I guess. And at the Sarno Brothers, this is my attempt at the Wicked Healthy Kitchen Challenge and making chili on an extremely hot day. It's 90 degrees out here, so can't say this is what I wanted today, but it's absolutely delicious. And thank you all for tuning in tonight. Go subscribe to our YouTube channel again. Go subscribe to my mom's YouTube channel. Stop in for lunch, call ahead, order online, do all that jazz. Thank you all for tuning in. We'll see you around.